So now we move on to what is not making a plan change operative. This is quite different. We've got item 14, which is Auckland Unitary Plan approval for plan change for filming on public land scheduled at sites and places of significance to mana whenua. We'll have, I'm sure, a number of questions, but we'll go to a, there is a presentation on this one. Oh, there's no presentation. Okay. Tony, sorry, I've got through. We've got Chloe. No, I've gone the wrong one. Cool. Chloe, Marie, Tony, and John can't be here. So if you just want to introduce yourselves as you need to speak and your roles, and go through the process from there. Thank you.
Kia ora, thank you, Mr. Chair, councillors and OMSP members. I'm Tony Reddy, Senior Policy Planner in Plans and Places, and I'll let Marie introduce herself. But online we have Chloe Truneau, consultant, who has prepared the Issues and Options report and was also Auckland Council's expert witness for sites of significance for Te Mana Whenua through the AUP process as well, so she has a good background in this topic.
Kia ora, I'm Marie Jenkins, and I'm the Screen Facilitation Manager for Screen Auckland, so I'm looking after the permitting of filming activities in the Auckland region. And Matthew Horrocks is the Screen Auckland Manager.
Marie, I'll just get you to move the microphone a bit closer. They don't...
Is that any better?
Yeah. Maybe bring it closer. Just if you pick it up and pull it forward a little bit. Thank you, sorry about that.
Oh. Do you want me to go through again? Sorry. Kia ora, I'm Marie Jenkins and I'm the Screen Auckland Manager, the Screen Auckland Facilitation Manager, and I look after the team doing the permitting in the Auckland region for filming activity on public open space.
Kia ora, I'm Matthew Horrocks, I'm the Manager of Screen Auckland. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll briefly take you through the report, and Chloe and Marie and Matthew can chip in where relevant, and then we're happy to answer questions. So just by way of background, particularly for the new councillors, currently there's a dual Auckland Unitary Plan and bylaw process for filming in public places. The bylaw is the Public Trading and Events and Filming Bylaw 2022, so it's recently been made operative. So filming is a temporary activity under the Auckland Unitary Plan, and on sites of significance to mana whenua requires limited discretionary resource consent. There are 105 sites and places of significance identified in the Unitary Plan. That's in Schedule 12 of the plan. These include urupā, battle sites, pā, waitapu, and they're all on public places, so they're either in parks and reserves or within road reserves. Currently there's none on private land, but that potentially will change in the future. So the sites are being progressively added to by our Maori heritage team in conjunction with iwi, working through a plan change at the moment. So new sites will come on board in the future, and that will be an ongoing process with a large number of nominations to be looked at. In May 2022, the screen industry did come to the Planning Committee and highlighted the difficulties they were having with this dual process in terms of time and cost and the lack of agility. And there's a copy of the Planning Committee's resolution in the report, and essentially the committee requested a report back once discussions had taken place with iwi. So since that time, since May, Auckland Unlimited has largely driven the process, and in conjunction with Chloe, Chloe's prepared the Issues and Options paper, which is in Attachment A, and engagement has occurred with iwi at a series of hui and also one-on-one engagement meetings, and a brief record of that is in Attachment B. So of the iwi that have formally responded, there has been general support in principle for looking at an alternative method to address the issue of filming on these sites. And Auckland Unlimited is about to embark on a significant further engagement and co-design in conjunction with Plans and Places with iwi. on a replacement process. And the nature of that, what that replacement process will be, will depend on the outcome of working with iwi. And any alternative process would require the removal of the restricted discretionary activity status in the plan. So that's hence the resolution mentions the plan change. So we are, at this point in time, we're seeking the committee's endorsement of the preparation of the plan change and the further work with iwi on this replacement process. So just to reiterate, there is a lot further work to be done, but we just, at this point in the project, we want to touch base with the committee to obtain your views to make sure we're on the right track. I'll just ask if there's anything Marie, Matthew or Chloe would want to add, but that's a brief overall summary and we're happy to answer any questions.
Nothing more to add?
Yeah, just really, I just wanted to add that we, on the facilitation team, we currently already undertake a separate process that runs in conjunction with the current bylaw for the Te Punamanga Authority, where they have their own kind of set criteria and conditions that we work alongside already. So on the team, we are already very familiar with trying to assist with queries around content and cultural significances with another authority. So it is something that we are really happy to do in amongst the existing bylaw and work on further work with independent iwi and hapu to get other agreements in place that our team can work alongside.
Perhaps I could just chip in if that's okay online. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Sorry.
Sorry, great. I just wanted to firstly acknowledge the importance of sites of significance and the values of the sites and reiterate that that's first and foremost in our view as we're going down this pathway to a plan change, and that the plan change by no means is trying to undermine or devalue the significance of the sites, but what we're trying to do is find a process that ensures those values can be appropriately reflected and acknowledged and considered through the filming process, while also being an efficient process to enable filming. So the plan change will work with a permitting process alongside it that will be fully engaging with mana whenua and involve mana whenua in decision making and reach agreement to do that, so that mana whenua are confident that their values of the sites are protected. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Kia ora, thank you. Chloe?
Thank you. If I could just, in terms of broader context, note that the screen industry here in Tamaki Makaurau is a $1.2 billion industry. 75% of Aotearoa's total, and it's growing fast. So we are one of a genuine international film centre. This issue has been perhaps the most serious challenge that we've faced, not having access to these sites. But it happens also in the context of a long-standing, very positive relationship between our screen sector and iwi here in the city, in this region. And within our sector, Māori, of course, are very strongly represented. And that's in front of the camera, that's behind the camera, that's in terms of businesses, and that's an evolving situation, and we always want to strengthen it. But the relationship that we see with mana whenua is one of increasing strength, and it's not just around sites and places of significance, it's around talent, business, stories, business capability development. All the iwi that we've engaged with are very interested in that, and we are very engaged with it. We're just looking for a more elegant mechanism that allows the filmmakers to interact more directly with the iwi, where the mechanisms in place are supportive of that rather than being cumbersome, which is what we have at the moment. Thank you.
Good, thank you very much. We might just go to questions if you feel that's the right time to do that now. Member Henare.
Kia ora. Just in terms of the working with mana whenua and mātāwaka, how many of those groups have responded? Who's involved in the bringing together of this idea?
The engagement to date has been led by the Māori Outcomes team within Tātaki Auckland Unlimited. So Helen Tahira has led the engagement. We have covered a briefing and the options paper to all of the 20 mana whenua groups. Individual hui have been held with 11 groups. 3 of those groups have provided formal feedback in writing, and we've had feedback received from a further 2 in writing that we haven't held face-to-face hui with, and we have got 4 more groups that we have working with to confirm dates of hui as well. So there has been considerable ongoing engagement, and that has been led with Helen Tahira's team.
So, how many have responded?
We've had 5 formal feedbacks in writing so far. We've held 11 one-on-one hui, so we've had feedback at hui, but not formally in writing, and we've had 5 pieces of writing back formally.
So if I can get this right, if I'm making a film about myself, as I would, and I wanted to hop on top of a place in Tamaki, most probably in Te Aratu Peninsula, obviously. Who do I pay? Or do I pay anybody? Do I have to pay?
Yeah, we currently operate under the Auckland Film Protocol. So on public open spaces, there is a schedule of impact fees that are listed in the Auckland Film Protocol. So if it's on public open space, those fees ranged from $50 for a low impact up to $1,600 for a major impact for a full day. That cost is invoiced currently from Screen Auckland, and 80% of that gets fed back through to the wider Auckland Council family, and it's dependent on who is the decision maker for where the filming activity happens. So if it's local parks and reserves, beaches, that predominantly goes back to the local boards. If it's on roading, that gets fed back to Auckland Transport, regional parks. So there's many varying departments within the wider Auckland Council whānau where the fees go back to. There is also a separate set of fees, like I mentioned earlier, when we are administering filming on behalf of Te Puna Mangere Authority, and they have set their own fees within their documentation that gets 100% fed back to Te Puna Mangere Authority.
So when Te Puna Mangere Authority are involved, the fee goes to them directly.
Yeah, we administer it on their behalf, but it gets fed back 100% to Te Puna Mangere Authority. So our team with the finance team, we journal it and pay it back to them.
But that's
So we
only
administer.
on sites that are governed loosely under the Te Puna Mangere Authority.
Yeah.
Okay, so nothing else. So if it was to say on the foreshore of Te Aratu Peninsula, who would I'd play it to Screen Auckland?
Yeah, it would come through, it's administered through Screen Auckland, and 80% of that would go back to the decision makers, whether we have quite a lot of filming that happens dually in a park, but also there's roads activity, so there's partial road closures. So 80% of the film fees would go back to whoever the split of the decision makers were. So it would be local boards and Auckland Transport probably in the majority of cases.
Has there ever been any thought given to, because what we're talking about here is a future plan to involve mana whenua and mātāwaka. I say mātāwaka because that's who I am, and that's who I'm here on behalf of. But has there ever been any thought given to cutting out the middle person, which is you guys? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out, what do Māori get out of it? I mean, you know, they're not the ones making the decision at the end of the day, but they are being asked to be part of drawing up a schedule of permitted activities and licence fees. When it comes down to it, if you're going to ask Boot Hill or film on Boot Hill, shouldn't you be paying them? Or if you're going to be filming on Waipareira territory, wouldn't you or shouldn't you directly pay and deal with Waipareira?
So to answer your question, the key relationship is between the filmmaker and the iwi, and we are very strongly encouraging that. The thing that we can do for the filmmaker and for the iwi is have a clear set of protocols that and assumptions that they're operating on. So that will be about, you know, where they're shooting, what they're shooting, how they're shooting it. Iwi will often have an interest in the content, you know, what is being shot there. And so in terms of administrating the fees, our role really is to make it as simple as possible for everyone, because we don't want iwi, you know, dealing with all of these individual, you know, applications on a bespoke basis. That, you know, that's not the main probably activity that they will be focusing within, you know, what they think is important. So the key relationship is with them.
Just to add though that we need to design the process still with mana whenua as we develop this plan change, and those options of how mana whenua or Matawaka wants to be involved in decision making is one of the key aspects that we'll be working through, whether that's a Screen Auckland resourcing for representatives to be within the team for permitting potentially, or how that might be resourced, is all still on the table for working through. So it's certainly not a decision that's been made yet, but one that does need to be worked through as part of this process.
Great questions and answers, thank you there. So we have another partai from Member Ashby.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. Just a few questions from me. The first one is in terms of the development of the options themselves, which resulted in the preferred option being to, through a plan change, get rid of the requirement for a consent essentially for film activity and switch that to a permit only. Did mana whenua, could you just explain, were iwi involved in that actual optioneering process and the selection of the preferred outcome, or were they just sort of consulted about your findings?
It's probably a question for me as the writer of the report.
Yep.
So I picked up the piece of work from a previous bit of, and it's referred to in the report, a previous options analysis by Foresight, which looked at some wider options and then focused in on the issue being the duplication of process. And that's why the options that I looked at were primarily resource consents and plan changes. I wasn't involved in any engagement directly in the preparation of that report. I understand that Auckland Unlimited had some early conversations with some mana whenua, but not all, around whether there was about the issue of filming and about the duplication of process. I just want to say in terms of the option, and yes, the option recommended is around making activities permitted, filming activities on public places that are site significance permitted. but there is still some optioneering work to be worked through with mana whenua as we refine what that actually means in terms of the plan change. So whether that's, you know, that filming is a permitted activity, or whether it's a permitted activity subject to a certain set of standards that provide, you know, opportunity for mana whenua to be sure that those values or processes, whether it's a management plan to deal with the appropriate location of activities or what those might be. There's still, I guess I'm just wanting to say, there's still some details around what the best form of that plan change will be, and that will certainly be worked through in this next phase with mana whenua.
Kia ora. Thank you. And just two more questions. But I take from that essentially that the first filter or stage of decision making has kind of set the framework then for that further engagement with mana whenua. So the first decision making, I guess, stage is to change the unitary plan in regards to this overlay, this schedule, and to proceed with the permit. So even though you didn't necessarily get opposition from the 5 out of 19 that you engaged with, the decision nonetheless has been made to pursue that line of thinking or avenue of work. And so I'm just making the point, I suppose, to be a little more blunt. You've already made the decision in terms of what the option is, and now you'll work with iwi to refine that, is my understanding. But the follow-up question, and I think you've hit on it in terms of the permitted activity status, I'm just mindful that the schedule itself, or the overlay rather, is actually relatively devoid of what we might call tikanga standards. There's stuff about archaeology and things like that in there, which is kind of nothing to do actually with tikanga. So I'm just kind of making the point that if this were shifted from RD to permitted, that it might be I guess I'm giving a strong indication from our position that be married up with a new standard that makes it very clear in terms of engagement. And I'd draw your attention to, I think it was the former Manukau City Council schedule had a category B, which had some wording to this effect in terms of iwi engagement. So it was quite enabling, but the permitted standard was for that engagement to occur. The last question I have is really a scope one, and that's, do you think that there's scope from a Film Auckland perspective in terms of that protocol being applied more broadly than just sites of significance specifically? And I'm mindful of the ONF overlay, the Schedule 14 overlay. These all have mana whenua values attached as criteria as well. So would this protocol apply to them as well? Thank you.
So Screen Auckland are really wanting to widen their relationship engagement with iwi much, much further than, and it will evolve, that it will be much further. The challenge at the moment to the industry has been around these sites and places of significance that are on the schedule that are requiring resource consent, because it is severely kind of hampering the industry for those sites because of the time frame and the cost involved. So our initial focus within this proposal is around the Schedule 12, but in our engagement to date, it's very clear that we need to look further than that after we have got that. So it is definitely something that is going to evolve and that we are looking to strengthen. And also kind of there's an education piece as well for the industry that we will be involved with as Screen Auckland to widen that out and to strengthen the relationships direct with the productions and the iwi as well. So it is a much bigger piece of work, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Turner, do you have a question?
Thank you. I was recently as a board member involved in quite a big filming out at Watapu, and Peter Torrie was there. He was from Te Kao Rao, he's an artist and a film guy in his own right, and he put there that he represented Te Kao Rao Maki, and that he was the kaiti as such the kaitiaki of the site during the project. He seemed to be embedded in the whole process. Is that common for mana whenua to have an embedment in each process like that?
The larger productions, that was a large international production that come on, we encourage them because we get a lot more notice earlier on with those productions. So we're able to work with them and give them more cultural advice. And we are seeing quite a turn for the industry to have cultural advisors come alongside the production to work with them to I suppose, smooth and navigate those spaces, because they never just choose one location, it's multiple locations. So having a cultural advisor that's part of a production is really advantageous for them in that relationship space, and we encourage that a lot. And we are seeing a move towards that quite a lot now, and in our engagement in this piece of work, we see that kind of rolling out kind of as part of our work as well.
Thank you. And the other question I had was, so the chair and the deputy chair is going to have this deputation, and one independent Maori statutory board member. Is that going to be a rolling membership, or will one person from the independent board be, hopefully, Ed, be appointed to this?
That would be up to the independent Māori statutory board themselves. So, and the secretariat will work with the team to get that person.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. We'll come back and confirm. We just have to work through our process to make such appointments.
So do we get input into that too?
No.
Oh, bugger. Sorry.
Kia ora, thank you. Councillor Filipaina.
Thank you, Chair. So the consenting process and all the work that is currently happening is around the schedule for sites of significance to mana whenua. Yeah? Is there a timeline for it coming back to the committee? There's nothing in the report around that timeline. I understand you've had 13 mana whenua groups already that have been consulted, and then obviously another 7 based on 20 that you said earlier. So what time frame will we end up having?
I would like to come back to you in the first quarter of next year. We do appreciate the time today, considering the recent elections. So it's obviously a matter of serious urgency for us, but it's also one of those situations where sometimes going as fast as you can is not the right answer. The right timeline is the one that works for mana whenua. But we have had a really strong level of engagement over the last 2 to 3 months in particular, and so that we would hope to continue that momentum. But we would set a deadline ourselves. It would fit a little bit around, of course, the schedule of this committee, but we'd want to be coming back to you, I would say, end of February, early March.
Okay, and the MOU process that you've mentioned in the report as well, that's hand in hand with the 20 that you mentioned, the MOU process?
Yes, they go together, yes.
And just on 28 of the report, this is the last one through you, Chair, 28 on the report has got next steps conveyed for Tātaki Auckland Unlimited. Just explain, I'm a wee bit confused with 28, but that's normal for me. But 28, you've got to start designing a draft permitting process for sites of significance. Can you explain that number 28 for me, please?
Perhaps I can answer that, Councillor Filipaina. So this is the corresponding process. So there's already the permitting process that's under the bylaw, but what we're wanting to do is by in order to get support from mana whenua for the plan change to make filming permitted, we want to make sure the permitting process is fit for purpose and addresses all the things that they would have expected to see through the resource consent process. So that's what that's referring to, making sure that that permitting process that sits alongside it is agreed and understood before we would notify a plan change to remove the requirement for the resource consent.
Kia ora, thank you. Chair, I'll move or even second if independent Māori when it comes to that. Kia ora.
There are no more questions. Is there a mover from the Independent Māori Statutory Board? Otherwise, I can go back to Councillor Filipaina. Member Ashby will move with Councillor Filipaina to second. And yes, I appreciate the, we can get you to move from the table because we're now in debate. Thank you. Just briefly, thank you to the officers and mana whenua and those who have been involved with this process for quite some time. I think it will be or should be a far better process for everyone. What I see is not changing any sort of approvals. It's taking, I guess, the more westernised constructs of a resource consent and the length of time and the money and all that out of the picture, but with a far more strengthened approval process for mana whenua and the film industry. So we're removing looking to remove the kind of difficult nature that puts everyone through one process to a more streamlined and flexible process for those mana whenua and mātāwaka who choose to be involved with this process over time. So I think, we are not there yet, but I think it's a good discussion and I take heart in all the comments and questions here today. Is there any other, Councillor Filipaina, you have a comment?
Just wanted to talk on what you've just said, Chair, but also just to acknowledge the staff in regards to the engagement they had with the Tupuna Authority that was mentioned in the report, but also verbally here. So I just want to acknowledge you and know that both Josephine and I, plus Kathy, we ended up going through that whole discussion around the protocol for filming on our maunga. So look, I just wanted to mihi to you and as well. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor, and acknowledge the huge amount of work you did with the Tupuna Maunga on that process, which will help this process. Councillor Turner.
Thank you. I'd like to make comment and support the film industry and support this process and just say to the Chair and Deputy and whoever's delegated for the board, West Auckland is disproportionately represented in the filming industry and it is a huge employer out there. The Waitaki Rangers, the Waitaki Council, when they were calling themselves an eco-council, had said they were going to support and promote industries that brought sustainable employment to the Waitakiris, and the film industry absolutely does. I see them operate out there regularly, and they are the best environmental people protecting what they do and making sure when they leave it's better than when they got there. I also was really impressed on the filming out on the coast and watched Mr. Torre. He was essential and brought common sense to the process. Also myself there as a local board member, he and I were the only two people who were able to speak out in support of the industry against council ridiculous requirements under resource management, stuff like that, or the way the requirements are interpreted. I'm very proud of the area and enjoy sharing it with the rest of New Zealand and the rest of the world, and I know there's other people who come from the same area who do too. So I really support making this a simple, straightforward process for the industry in our area. It really helps everybody.
Otherwise they won't come.
Yeah, thank you.
Go somewhere else.
Thank you, Councillor. I have no more debating points, so we'll move to the vote. All those in favour? Aye. Any opposed? And abstentions? No. Thank you. That is carried. Right, now we will take this opportunity at 1 p.m. to go for lunch. We'll be back in exactly half an hour. Well, I'll give you one extra minute. We'll be back at 1:30. Thank you.